From the business capital of the world, the Big Apple, New York's Middle Tennessee, it says here. Sounds riveting.
It is.
It's the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals.
Mostly. That's right. You know, obviously from the background, you can tell that we're not exactly in the same place that we're typically in, which is the it'syourshow.co studios in the J2HQ in Middle Tennessee. But this is a series of special podcast episodes that we're doing at the Music City Drum Show. If you've been listening to the past couple of episodes, you've heard a commercial that comes on at the beginning that talks about us being here, and this is our first time being remote in a very unique situation with a literal cacophony going on behind us. And my first guest today is somebody I've always wanted to have on. I met you by proxy through Rich Redmond. April Samuels, thanks for coming on.
Man, thank you so much for having me, Jim.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. And yeah, I mean, we are in the midst of the chaos right now, for sure.
That's right. Now, why am I doing a podcast at a drum show? Well, those who know me know that I am also a drummer. I've reignited my passion for drums, shaking off the rust after several years of being kind of dormant, and just really enjoying and getting into it. And, J.C. Clifford reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love to have your podcast here. I said, well, we could talk about all things music business and things of that nature. So we'll talk a lot about that. But first, your background. From the looks of it on your bio on aprilsamuels.com, you've been wanting to do something in music since you're 5 years old.
Yes.
Right.
Very young age.
Yeah, it's a young age. And, to be that self-aware at that particular moment in time is quite amazing to me. Because, was that something you always wanted to do? Do you remember your first time being introduced to the instrument?
Absolutely, I do. It was crazy because I had two people in my life at that age that had drum sets. So my older cousin had a drum set. Right. And then my best friend's older brother had a drum set. Yeah. And so I was around drums a lot at a very young age. And of course, being, like 5 years old, I wasn't allowed to play their really super cool looking drum sets. So it just made me want to even more.
It's like Step Brothers. Don't touch my drum set.
Exactly. Yeah. It totally is. And so I begged my mom to give me a pair of drumsticks at a music store when I was 5. And I just was banging on everything in the house with those things. And of course, I was begging them for a drum set too. But it wasn't until I was about 8 that I got one of those Sears, drum sets with paper and But we were able to play like Heat of the Moment by Asia on it, me and my brother, and stuff like that. But they said if you stick with it, we'll get you like a real kit. Yeah. So I stuck with it, and at 11 years old, they bought me my first real kit.
My first kit was $75, and it was like a Beatles special, but not like. Not the kit that Ringo used. It was like the knockoff of whatever.
$75, I'm guessing.
Pretty much,
so, yeah. Wow.
But I mean, that was the let's spend the money and see if he's really into it kind of kit.
Right. Yeah. They gotta start somewhere.
Man, I knew I wanted to play the drums since I was 6, 7 years old. Yeah. Like you. Yeah. So my mom did the next best thing and got me a saxophone because she didn't want to hear quote the noise. And it's like, because, a saxophone squeaking while you're trying to practice is much better.
Yeah, that's so much better. Wow.
So, making a living in the music business is not an easy task.
Right.
So, I mean, what was like, okay, did you know that at a young age as well?
Yeah, I always thought about, touring the world and drumming and stuff like that ever since I was a kid. And, you kept trying to break through. I was in original bands till like 20-something. Yeah. And it just went dark in here on us.
It did.
Yeah, but that's okay. It's intimate. This is an intimate podcast. But
I did it by special request just for you.
Right. So, my whole life I was like, I want to be a rock star. I want to tour the world, all the things. And so I was in original bands until probably 2010 or something, and so I was fighting. And then when I got my cancer diagnosis, I know we're going to talk about that, that's when it really came clear what the purpose of my drumming was in my life.
Right.
And that's when I combined my passion for drumming with my passion for fighting breast cancer, and formed Breast Cancer Can Stick It.
Yeah.
And so that's become my life's passion. That's where I'm putting all my energy, drumming everything. And of course I still play in 6 other bands or something like that. But my passion is Breast Cancer Can Stick It.
Yeah, you're playing in a lot of different bands for sure. I mean, you got Metal Shop, Rebel Yell, which is a tribute to Billy Idol. You're in a tribute to Pink.
Yep, just like Pink.
49th Vibration, Bullet.
Yep.
I mean, that's a lot of... You got a lot going on.
It's more recently, I've added another band called Amor, which is an acoustic band.
Oh, okay.
And so we're going to be getting that going here probably before the end of the summer. You're
almost like ahead of the curve, because I think that's where, like, if you want to make a living as a musician, you got to spin a lot of plates.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so you've been doing that. This is daily life for you.
Right. I mean, I've just, for as long as I can remember, I've been in so many projects. Probably started, I was really focused on just one original band, but then around 2003 or so, I started getting in a bunch of different bands, original bands, cover bands, whatever, and just keep playing. I mean, I love to play. I know that you understand that.
It's for me. I had to reignite it. There's a little spark. I've always wanted to be in a Huey Lewis and the News tribute band.
Nice.
I kind of sort of have an opportunity to be in one. I met a guy about 6 months ago now, and people that know me always knew that, like, hey, I want to be in a Bon Jovi tribute band. I want to be in a Huey Lewis. I want to be in like a Metal Shop-esque type of band.
Yes. Yeah.
I have a lot of ideas, but I got to pick one and just run with it. So this one kind of reared its head. I already told them, I said, at some point I'm going to be your drummer, but life just doesn't fit for that right now. I've got a family. I'm working 1,800 different things. But it's made me sit down and just start playing those songs. And it's like, I didn't realize how tough some of those songs are.
Yeah, that's the thing, is whenever you pick like a genre or a specific group to tribute, and then you get kind of digging into it, you're like, whoa, there's a lot of things going on here. Yeah.
Kudos to Bill Gibson, man. Rich and I interviewed him on Rich's podcast not too long ago.
Yeah. Awesome.
But so 2010 comes rolling along.
Yep.
You're cruising. You get this diagnosis.
Yeah.
I mean, where you kind of like, whoa, what, did it gut check you?
Well, just a little bit of background on that. So I have fibrocystic breasts and dense breasts, which actually makes you at higher risk of getting breast cancer.
Right.
And so I was going in for screenings every 6 months for ultrasounds, so they could keep an eye out for any cancer that might come about. And so it was during one of those regular screenings. And like I said, I've been doing it for like 7 years, and everything was great. So I never really was worried, right? Like I was like, oh, this is just normal, everything's cool. But unfortunately in July of 2010, they saw something different, came back 3 months later, and it was breast cancer. We did a biopsy and everything, and man, it just stops you in your tracks for sure. Like I said, I was in like 6 different bands at that time, and I just said, you know what, I got to focus on this and this alone. I want to live, and this has to be my primary focus. So I put down the drumsticks, and I put all my energy into fighting the breast cancer I had. And ironically, like 2 days before I got the results from the biopsy, I was just struck. Like, it was like a calling. This voice just said, if you have breast cancer, you're going to be the biggest advocate in the fight against breast cancer that you can be.
Right.
It was a little bit terrifying because I hadn't got the diagnosis yet. And so that's how Breast Cancer Can Stick It was born. And literally, I diagnosed on October 26th, double mastectomy on November 10th, and then within 2 weeks after that, I already had a logo for Breast Cancer Can Stick It.
You just get the ideas and you execute. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I said, it was like a real calling. It was no joke. Like, I had to listen. There was really no choice, and I was excited, and I felt like that was the purpose of the drumming, because I wasn't like I said, touring the world and being a big huge rock star or whatever, and that's just where it went.
Sometimes it's not, looking at some of the people that do that for a living, it's not all that glamorous.
Right. Yeah.
So you kind of made it work in your own backyard, and then, hey, why not start a nonprofit now? Let's get into that world. Mm-hmm. You've done managing as well, and agency kind of stuff.
Marketing, a lot of marketing.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Because I mean, I've seen that's how I know you is by Breast Cancer Can Stick It.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've done the events. You're out of Texas, right? Dallas, Texas. So I mean, that's an amazing thing to kind of have to pull off in a city that big.
Yeah.
But you made 14 years in.
Yeah. We became a 501c3 nonprofit in 2013 was when we became official. I didn't set out to start as a nonprofit. I was just trying to raise funds to fight breast cancer. I wasn't out to make a nonprofit, but I was raising so much in funds that my accountant was like, hey, you should just become a nonprofit. It'd make more sense.
Wow.
And so 9 months later, filled all the paperwork out, got it all completed, and we were accepted. So,
was it a lot of other drummers, or just kind of concentrating on women?
No, at the time it was just concentrating on women. I hadn't really started doing drum-based events. We would have music-based events and stuff like that to raise funds. But once we became an official nonprofit, we started Drumathon pretty soon thereafter, which is our largest annual fundraiser. We started that in 2015. So, and if you're not familiar, you got to come out to it sometime. You know,
Absolutely.
Rich has been out a few times.
Yeah, you've had Sandy Gennaro out there, I know.
Yes,
what
Sandy Gennaro, Keo Stroud from here in Nashville, Kim Slusher. Jake Summers has done some interviews for us for things. We've had over 30 different celebrity drummers. Greg Bissonette's been out. Gina Shock from the Go-Go's.
Yeah.
Carmine Appice, Vinny Appice. I mean, just anybody you could think of, it feels like, has been out at one point or another.
Is it Carmine Appice or Appice, or is it Vinny Appice or Appice?
Yeah, so they have a little shtick that they do about that. Isn't that crazy? I'm like, what? And they have a third brother, I guess, who's not a drummer, and he pronounces it another way. I'm like, come on, guys. I guess they want that individuality, I guess. So it works.
I guess so. It makes it, but I always get it mixed up. I'm like, it's like that, the college humor thing that Paul Rudd and, gosh, I can't think of the other guy's name, but they're from I Love You Man, the movie, and they go backstage to meet Rush.
Oh,
and and it's like Mr. Peart sandwich. So he starts eating it, and he goes, "Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Peart." And he goes, "It's Peart." He's like, "No, I'm pretty sure it's Peart." He's like, and he's like, "Okay." And they're like, "Okay, Neil, calm down." Like Neil's the monster. He's the one that's going to go off on you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, be careful.
Well, here's another interesting story to bring up about Neil. Do you remember the day you found out he died?
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely.
Really?
I mean, the thing was, I think all of us that grew up in the 80s, he was a big idol, a big inspiration.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge for me.
Yeah, and I had all the posters on the wall.
Did you have the big one, the long banner of him on the river?
I didn't have that one.
Yeah.
I had some, horizontal posters, of his kit and him and everything like that, with the band, too. And, man, it was like the world stopped in that moment. I mean, cancer is gosh, man. Yeah. We got to do something, y'all.
Well, he was very quiet about it.
He really was.
Hardly anybody knew. You literally see my reaction. We were shooting an episode with Rich.
Oh, really?
And I was just doing he was interviewing, oh gosh, I can't remember his name either. I'm getting old man fog brain. But it was a young kid. He played the drummer in the movie I Can Only Imagine.
Oh, okay.
And he's a legit professional drummer as well.
Okay.
So they came out, we did an interview with him, and as we're mid-recording, I'm doing things that come up, I'm doing research on it and everything.
Right.
I'm like an executive producer on a podcast, and I find out, and you see my visceral reaction caught on tape.
Wow.
And I had to stop the podcast. I go, guys, big news while we're doing this. Just found out Neil Peart died.
Yeah.
This kid that we had on was devastated.
Oh my gosh.
He was 21 years old. And he just sat away from the mic and took his head. He didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to burst into tears.
Well, and I have one of his signature symbols from Sabian, and I was like, do I frame that and put that away now? I
don't want to play it.
I know I didn't want to, but everybody was like, Neil would want you to play it.
Yeah.
So it's actually on my kit here at the drum show right
very
now.
Cool.
You can swing by and see it. So yeah, yeah, that was a tough day, man.
Yeah.
That was tough.
So you were here at the show. You got your kit here. You're going to do some solos and stuff like that?
I'll just jam around a little bit, and people can come over and play on the kit, too. It's a black and pink checkered drum kit, so breast cancer can stick it on the head there.
Right.
And, we got our booth and our merch and everything. So,
right.
Yeah.
So you got all that stuff going. It all goes to fundraising for cancer and stuff like that.
Yes.
What are some success stories that have come out of what you're doing?
Well, man, the one thing I want to tell you, of course, we're donating to research and trials. We're donating for financial assistance for breast cancer treatment and for mammograms for underinsured individuals. And so we keep most of the people who get the funds, it's anonymous. Sometimes they'll write us letters back and tell us how helpful it was to get them through those times. But man, we've raised over $600,000 as an organization since 2013 started doing this.
Nice.
And I want you guys to know, like, we're like all volunteer. We have one person who does work 10 hours a week that's paid, and everybody else is volunteer.
Right.
So that's doing a lot through volunteerism. And our drumathon started out raising $13,000 a year, and now we're raising over $60,000. This year we're looking to hit $75,000 for our 10th annual, which is coming up October 20th. But just the increase of funds that you see going up and the effect that you know that you're having on that, it's pretty amazing. We have folks from Parkland and Dallas, Texas. That's where we contribute to currently, and they give us all the stories about people who get the free mammograms and how they feel like, they felt like they were lost. They didn't have a way to afford to do this, get the screening.
Wow.
And then now we're able to help them with that.
Wow, very cool, very cool. I think that's tremendous. I mean, in the next 5 to 10 years, what's your vision for it?
So it's cool because, Jim, a lot of people have asked me that since I've been up here, and I'm all excited to tell you the answer. Well, the first market that we want to expand to is actually Nashville.
Nice.
We come up here every year, sometimes twice a year. We come here for the Music City Drum Show. We were coming up here for Summer NAMM. We've done a few other events up here as well. And the community here is just outstanding.
Yeah.
I mean, and already just mentioning it to several people here, they're like, I want to be involved. I want to be involved. So we'd like to start a chapter here. We may do a drumathon here first.
There you go.
I'm really shooting my sights on 2026, and I'm just I'm putting it out there so that it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, put it out there and it'll happen. So we're shooting for hopefully a drumathon here in Nashville 2026. But the ultimate goal is to maybe take drumathon on like a tour, like a summer tour, and do that in many different markets. And when we do that, we would contribute the funds that we raise to that local community. So, for example, in Dallas right now, we're contributing to Parkland for mammograms, financial assistance for treatment. They're in Dallas, but if we have a drumathon here, we'll find a similar county hospital to contribute to help folks locally.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there like as far as blending the interest with Susan G. Komen, anything like that, or?
No, this is totally separate. We're our own organization, music centric, and just to be clear, like Komen was like, they're pioneers, trailblazers, and I'm grateful for the work that they've done because, if you look at the statistics, it's really made an impact making that awareness in breast cancer. So we're kind of carrying that forward, as our own organization.
Yeah.
So,
It'll be kind of interesting because, I mean, they've had, for that organization, the radio station I worked for at the time did a lot with them, Mix 92.9 here in Nashville. And it just kind of popped into my head as a suggestion. I have a propensity to like get these ideas and preface it by going, you know what you should do.
I got you. No,
forgive
keep
me.
it coming. I love ideas. I mean,
what about like a marathon drum solo that every donation does like an extra 5 to 10 minutes of a drum?
Well, it's funny because you've almost like given the story, the background of drumathon, because drumathon was originally held in the 1980s in Plano, Texas. Yeah. And what they did is they went door to door and got sponsors, and each drummer would play like as long as they could.
Oh, wow.
So it was like an event they'd come out to, and there'd be like 5 drummers that would play like an hour or 2 hours or something like that. And so my friend ran that. And so when I started Breast Cancer Can Stick It, he was following us, and he met with me and said, hey, we did this thing. And I was like, well, why don't we flip it? So what we did is instead of having a few drummers playing a long time, we have a lot of drummers playing a little bit of time.
Right.
So for Drumathon, the top 25 fundraising drummers get a drum solo at Drumathon.
Right.
And so that's kind of the deal. And we have 2 drum sets there. So when we have our celebrity drummers out, the celebrity drummers will do a drum solo, and then you can pay to get up on the second kit and play alongside your celebrity drummers. So it's a really unique event. There's
cool.
live music. It's an outdoor festival. It's very cool.
Right on.
Come on, Jim. Come on.
Well, let me know next time it is. When is the next Drumathon?
It's October 20th in the Dallas, Texas area. You can go to drumathon.org to get all the information. We're about to start announcing the celebrities that will be there this year. Super excited about that. We always have a couple people that come back each year because, like, everybody wants to come back. It's crazy. I think Sandy Gennaro's been out like 6 times. I know Rich Redmond and Mark Schulman have been out 3 times each. So, I mean, it's just a fun event.
Any, like, female drummers, Sheila E., something like that?
Well, we've had Hannah Welton has come out. We had Samantha Maloney from Hole. Like I said, Gina Shock, Lori Peters from Skillet. She's actually on our board now.
Nice.
So she's come out a lot because she's a breast cancer survivor as well, drummer and a breast cancer survivor. So Lori's on our board from Skillet. And yeah, we're looking at some female drummers. We're definitely going to try to hook up with Haley here and see if she'd be interested in coming out. We'd love to have her out.
Who's the favorite drummer of yours following on social media? Anybody come to mind?
Oh gosh, man, there's a lot of young drummers that are really good too.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, she's crazy to watch.
Cardeal?
Yeah. And she's awesome. I love her. Gosh, I don't know if there's a top one, man. I wouldn't want to do that. There's a lot.
One of my a recent favorite of mine has been Mike Terena. He is so cool, man.
Is that the guy that's like the really fast drumming guy? Who's that guy?
Mike Terena, he's like back in the when I was playing actively with drums and back in the 90s and such when I started, he would always post an ad in Modern Drummer, like a quarter-page ad advertising lessons and stuff like that. But he was particularly in the hard rock, heavy metal side.
Oh, cool. But
now he's in his 50s and stuff like that. He sports a cool mohawk. He lives in Italy and his playing style, his snare drum's like freaking nipple level. It's like completely uncomfortable for my playing style. But he's an amazing drummer.
I gotta check that out. You're gonna send me a link so I can follow him.
Yeah, and he gets a lot of engagement, man. My goodness.
Yeah.
Good for him.
The one guy that I keep thinking of is the bearded dude. The guy who just is like with the
right.
I can't remember the guy's name right now.
You're talking about the Italian guy. It's a minimalistic drum set, and he's like he's lightning fast. Yeah,
maybe that's the same guy.
I'm going to redo the Tom Sawyer film. Like, no, you don't do that, dude. That's sacred.
Don't touch that. Yeah. Don't mess around.
And he actually did, and he got flamed for it. But
Did you see the Mark Portnoy where he had to learn the Tool song? Did you see that one?
It took him half an hour.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
It was great to watch that because it's very educational, really, about how he breaks it down. And it's very helpful. It's pretty cool.
It's absolutely to watch something like that is just utterly amazing.
Yeah, totally.
He is. I saw him break that down, and it's one of those things that because that is not an easy song.
No.
And Tool is such a technically proficient band.
Yeah.
And especially from a guy who comes from technically proficient backgrounds, to say, I think he mentioned, he says, this song makes Dream Theater look like Old Man Fog Brain. But he mentioned another relatively recent band, and he's like, no shade on them, but
right.
It makes us look simple.
Right. That's so crazy, man.
It was nuts. Well, it's a racket here.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of racket here.
A little bit.
Well, I don't want to forget to tell you, I just released a book too.
Right on.
And it was released on April 26th. Had to do it in my month, right? Mm-hmm. And it's actually like my journals for when I went through breast cancer. So I was doing blogs and things during that time, and I had 5 different people from different places in my life tell me I should release it as a book. Mm-hmm. And it took a long time to get it done, but I put it out this year, and it's really to inspire hope. For anything, whether you're going through some medical trauma or emotional trauma, it doesn't matter. Whatever you need to be picked up from, I'm hoping that this book can do that for people.
What was yours? What was it like for you? What did you cling to in that time?
It was people. Yeah. I found that if I was by myself, I just would get really depressed. So I would invite friends over to hang out with me so that I could get the energy from them, and I can't even tell you how much it helped. And everybody has something different. Some people don't want to be around people. That makes it worse for them because then it's brought up a lot or something.
Yeah.
But for me, that was my thing. But yeah, the book, I'm hoping that it will really help a lot of people because, people get so scared when they go through a breast cancer diagnosis, as well you should. And I just want people to know that there's a way out, and you can beat breast cancer just like you can a drum.
Right. There you go. Well, there you go. Check everything out for April at aprilsamuels.com and breastcancercanstickit.org.
That's correct. Breastcancercanstickit.org. You can get the book on either of those sites too.
Well, I really appreciate you coming out and being on with me. It's always good to see you in person. And finally, this is our first lengthy conversation we've had with, everybody making a racket in the background. My gosh.
Keep it down, guys. Come on.
Don't you understand? We're a podcast and a drum show. What are you thinking here? Well, thank you so much for being on. I really, really appreciate it. Guys, thanks for watching the show as well and listening to it. You can go to MMTBP.com and find all the links there, especially if you want to be on the show. Once we're back in studio, share the show if you got something out of it. Share, subscribe, like, rate, review, all that fun stuff, and learning how to talk. Jim Talking Take Two. MMTBP, mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast.com. Thank you so much, April. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.